hello, 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 everybody. It's me, Shannon LaBruyere. I'm live and I'm loving it tonight. Welcome to Sunday Night Live, where we explore principles that equip us to thrive in change. And by change, I mean the change that you've been planning for all your life. Maybe you just got married, like my niece. Or the change that you didn't see coming, like the unexpected job termination. No matter what kind of change you're dealing with, when you've got principles to work with, it equips you to be able to thrive, to be able to nurture those roots so that when the next season comes along, that season of growth and excitement and all the flowers are blooming, you'll be ready to roll. So with that, we're going to get started. Welcome. Hello. Let's check out. Hi, Tammy. I'm glad you're here. If this is your first time watching Sunday Night Live, I would love for you to drop your name in the comments. Say hi. You'll have to give StreamYard permission to use your Facebook profile. But when you do that, it's pretty easy. Once you do that, we'll be able to see who you are and we'll be able to see your comments and you won't just be unknown user. Oh, Missy says she loves me in red with curly hair. Well, I'll have to do this more often. Thank you, Missy. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, so you guys, before we get too far in, I have to give you an opportunity to have the best coffee that I've ever drank, and it is Thumb Roast Coffee. Thumb Roast Coffee is my absolute favorite. Those of you who are loyal Sunday night viewers or Thrive and Change podcast listeners, you know this is true. And you can try Thumb Roast Coffee online at thumbroastcoffee.com. You get 15% off if you use the coupon code THRIVE, THRIVE. That's at thumbroastcoffee.com. And I promise you will not be disappointed. It is wonderful, wonderful stuff. All right, let's see what else. Tonight's hashtag, our hashtag, there's so many that seem to apply, but I think I am going to go with trust the process. Tonight, what we're talking about, hashtag trust the process. We are going to explore a little bit about how do we know what we don't know? How do we know what we don't know? That can get us into a lot of trouble when we don't know what we don't know. So we're going to start exploring that. Make sure you say hi, welcome. Give me those hearts, give me those thumbs up, give me those angry faces. If something's irritating you, whatever you got, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to hear from you. I want this to be a two-way conversation. So make sure you get your opinion out there, get your thoughts and comments. It's exciting to be able to see other people's perspectives about the things that I'm sharing with you. It's also really powerful for the other people who are watching and listening because it's not just one voice. It's all this wisdom that comes together and you are part of that wisdom. So the questions that you ask help. The comments that you make help, and it helps this community to grow together, which is near and dear to my heart. Growth is one of the things that I'm most passionate about. So with that, let me pull up these comments and let's get started. So, hi, Kelly. I'm glad you're here. So last week, my aunt and I went to our niece's wedding in Pensacola, and we flew into New Orleans airport and explored the city for a day. And then we went to Pensacola for the wedding, and then we came back. And for those of you who didn't catch last week's Sunday Night Live, you may not know that I ended up missing our plane, and we were there for an extra day, and that's a whole different story. But something really funny happened while we were driving in downtown New Orleans. And there's a street, and the street's name is hi, Ted. Ted's excited. The street name is Calliope. So that's spelled like this, Calliope, Calliope. right? Now, I am a reader. I've been reading since I was about 4 years old, and I didn't always know what words meant what or how they sounded. So I did the best I could sounding out words. And I can remember when I was just a kid, maybe 7, 8 years old, I read a book that used the word Calliope, Calliope. And it was talking about like a Ferris wheel and that, that song. And they said it was a Calliope. And so for 50 years, 50 years, I would refer to the Calliope music when we would go to a fair or a carnival and I saw something that I thought was a Calliope. I would point it out and I would use that word with such confidence. Now, some of you I know are probably chuckling because that word C-A-L-L, and I'm going to type it right here. Give me a second. I got to lean forward here. It is Calliope. Is it? There it is. All right. So that's the word, Calliope. And so 50 years, I've been using that word Calliope. And my aunt and I are driving in downtown New Orleans, and the Google Maps lady is directing us. And so we were on our way to Chick-fil-A. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It was going to be like our third time going to Chick-fil-A, but we wanted to go. Anyway, Google Maps kept saying to get on Calliope Street. And I was like, Calliope Street. And all of a sudden it dawns, Calliope Street. Oh, I've been calling that Calliope. Google Maps says it's Calliope. So God love my aunt. She looks at me and says, I think Google Maps is wrong. I thought, oh gosh, no, I'm wrong. For 50 years, I've been saying the word Calliope wrong. And I didn't know it. I didn't know it. And nobody ever told me. Now, maybe they didn't know, or maybe they thought I was talking about something different. But you guys, I would use that word with confidence. I would march in. I had no problem throwing that word around, and I had no idea how to say it. The same thing happened to me with the word hors d'oeuvres, which is French, so cut me a pass here. But for many, many, many years, until I was in my 30s, I thought there were two different items. There were hors d'oeuvres, which are those appetizers that you eat before a party, and they're really fancy. The ham roll-ups with the cream cheese and the green onions, so good. Maybe the little smoky links and barbecue sauce, right? Good stuff, hors d'oeuvres. And then there were hors d'oeuvres. And hors d'oeuvres, because I'd seen the word written, but I'd never heard it said, hors d'oeuvres were something totally different to me. They were much more exotic. I wasn't even sure what they were, but I just knew they sounded great. Hors d'oeuvres, hors d'oeuvres. I didn't know what I didn't know until I was talking to another adult and mentioned hors d'oeuvres. And he said, what? And he called me on it. What are you talking about? And so I tried to describe it. He goes, oh, you're describing hors d'oeuvres. Oh, I guess I am. I didn't know what I didn't know. At that same processing plant where that guy called me out on the hors d'oeuvres issue, I was busy as a beaver working on projects so that I could teach my fellow workers how to be better communicators. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I had a lot of book knowledge, but I wasn't using what I learned. I was just telling people what I learned. Pam says she's been there. Yeah, and so while I was busy working, thinking I was doing a great job, thinking I was doing a fantastic job, I was so intense, I was thorough. I made sure that all of my training classes were just so. I delivered them well, and they were interesting, but I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that while my door was closed and I was busy working on things to help my fellow workers were staging an uprising because they didn't know what I was doing and they were mad. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So my question to you is, how do you know what you don't know? How do you know what you don't know? How do you know what you don't know? Have you ever been in a situation, specifically, Pam says she's been there, specifically been in a situation where you were acting with extreme confidence and you had no idea? I'll give you another example. I had no idea, as I was talking to one of my bosses. This was a different boss in a different location. I was talking to one of my bosses and I was helping her strategize how to communicate a very big set of layoffs that they were getting to propose, that they were getting ready to execute in this location. And as I sat with her and did my job to strategize with her and help her to come up with a good plan to communicate with the employees, I didn't know that the very layoffs that I was helping her to communicate were going to affect me. And I was going to be the first person she called into her office after the official announcement was made. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. So we have two, well, we probably have more than two, but we have a couple of strong of choices. When we start thinking about what do I know, or how do I know what I don't know? So the first one is this: we can just pretend like we know everything, which is Shannon and the Calliope Street, or Calliope as it's known popularly in my circles. We can kind of cruise through life assuming that, of course, we know. Of course, we know everything that needs to be known. Everything that needs to be known, I know it. You've met know-it-alls before. You've met them. Is that the path you take? You know what? If I don't know, I'll just fake it till I make it, and, maybe I'll find out, right? That's an approach. Another approach is this: to always be worried about what don't I know? What don't I know? What's going on that nobody's told me? What shoe is getting ready to drop? So on the one end of the spectrum, you've got this hyper confidence that says, I know everything that could possibly affect me. And then you've got on the other end of the spectrum, you've got, I am in constant worry because I don't know what's going to happen next. How do you strike the balance between those things? So here are a couple of hints. The first one is this: you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. You cannot see the picture if you're in the frame. And feel free to write that down because it's powerful and it applies to a lot. But if you're in the picture frame, you can't see the rest of the picture. You're just standing there with everybody else, right? You're in the mix. And when we are in the mix, it's not that we're intentionally blind. It's that it's impossible to see the picture if you're in the frame. So we have to, if we want to know what we don't know, we have to intentionally, sorry about that, you guys, Ted's excited. We have to intentionally step outside of the frame. We have to intentionally step away from the scenario, step away from the situation, and get a little bit of physical space and mental space and emotional space from situations. In the scenario where I was busily working on training programs for a group of people who were plotting my demise, thinking I was doing a great job and absolutely wasn't, it would have been useful for me to have stepped away from that closed room and done a little bit of observation, done a little bit of reflection, but I was totally immersed in what I was doing. And so I encourage you, one of the ways that you can get a sense for how do you know what you don't know is to take yourself out of that frame. Try to look at it from another perspective. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. How would that look to somebody else who didn't know all of the facts, right? How might it be perceived that a person was in their office for 6-7 hours a day with the door closed and nobody could tell what they were doing? What might people think? Had I stepped out of my bubble, had I not been eating my lunch at my desk, I would have had a better idea of what was percolating out there. But I didn't step out of my little section far enough to be able to get a sense of what was happening. So that's one way that you can know what you don't know. Another thing that you can do to find out what you don't know is to surround yourself with an inner circle of people you trust. An inner circle of people you trust. Now, all of us, if we are out in the community, if we work a job, if we go to church, if we have kids in school, we are with people a lot. And you and I both know that you can't trust all of those people. You don't know all of those people well. Every person that's your friend on Facebook, newsflash here, every person who's one of your friends on Facebook isn't necessarily a trusted advisor or a sincere friend who has your best interests at heart. So you have to look at the people you're surrounded with, and you have to make a choice. Who are you going to allow to be in your inner circle? Who are going to be the people that you will allow to speak into your life with love and with wisdom? And you get to pick those people. We'd like to think sometimes that they're our parents, and that is not always the case. We would like to think sometimes that that's our spouse, but it's not always the case. I hope it's the case. It's wonderful when it's the case. But you have to take a look at the people you allow to speak into your life and help you to make decisions, to give you perspective, to help you see your blind spots. You need to be able to look at those people and say, do I trust that this person has my best interest at heart? Do I trust that they are wise in the area that I'm asking them for input? So you can intentionally take yourself out of that up-close situation so that you get a different viewpoint. And Kelly says, I always try to put me in someone else's shoes. And that is a wonderful practice to have, because Kelly, that will help you to not miss important information that can only be seen from that vantage point. We have to surround ourselves with people, our inner circle. Even if we're in a big crowd, the people that we trust and are close to us, those people need to be wise. They need to love us. They need to have our best interests at heart. They need to be kind. All of those things we talked about when we talked about what are our core values, what are our core values in our life, being kind, showing love, bringing honor. If the people in your inner circle, the people who have the most access to you, that influence your opinion the most, if those people are not bringing the honor, I could have called this one hashtag bring the honor. If they're not bringing the honor, you get to decide to move them over and start bringing somebody else in. You get to do that. You get to pick. Just because somebody's related to you or lives next door or is your boss at work or is that coworker that stands next to you doesn't mean that they have the core values that align with your core values. And that means that you maybe don't want to listen to them. Maybe you listen to them if you're wondering what's a good movie to go see, or maybe you listen to them of what restaurant to go to, but you might not want to listen to them when you ask them, I'm thinking about quitting this job and getting another one. What do you think? Not everybody in your circle can answer that question for you. Am I just crazy or fill in the blank? Not everybody can answer that question. So you need to cultivate the relationships that are closest to you. And that often means saying no to relationships that are not adding value to your life and you're not adding value to theirs. It's just the way life is. We cannot have an inner circle of 75 people. That's not how humans work. Pay attention to who you surround yourself with and who you listen to. And then the third thing I'm going to throw out there as we're wrapping this up, and I am curious to hear your thoughts. The other thing that we can do is intentionally find somebody whose only job is to help us achieve what we said we want to achieve. A coach. I'm a coach. I have a coach. I have several coaches. My job as a coach is to make sure that you understand what you want and that you have a plan to get there. And then I, as a coach, hold you accountable for keeping the promises you make to yourself about what you want, where you want to go, who you want to become, what you want to achieve. If you don't have somebody, it doesn't have to be a coach that you pay. It doesn't have to be me, but you need a person who's doesn't have a vested interest in you failing at your desire to move away and go to college because they want you to stay here close to them, right? They can't help it. They can't help it. They don't want you to go to school. So they might just try to talk you out of it. But that might not be what's best for you. So understand not only that inner circle, but that neutral party, that neutral person who's actually not neutral. They are 100% for you and what you say you want. And if that person has skills, has intuition, has put in the work to be able to do that work well, that person is going to change your life. And you need somebody like that. All right, let's see what we've got here. Missy said, this is one of the reasons I love live stream leadership. And I did not ask her to say that, but I am so glad you did, Missy, because it is true. It's a fabulous place. It's a safe place to be open and ask for feedback because it's a safe place to fail. Yes, we learn more by failing and continuing on. Having people that make you feel safe is key. Yeah, people who make you feel safe to fail. And Missy, I'm just going to one-up you on that. And people who aren't trying to protect you and keep you from failing, right? Because we have to fail to grow. So it's not about preventing each other from failing. It's about making it safe for people in that inner circle to be able to try new things, perhaps fail, but learn from it when they go. I love it. Thank you. Kelly says, my dad always said to me, there is a difference between a trusted close friend and an acquaintance. Yeah, I agree. And I think about Facebook and how the word friend has been kind of co-opted, sort of hijacked, right? The word friend. Now, when we say friend, we don't know if that's a Facebook friend or if it's that casual acquaintance at work. Today, I was talking with somebody and I actually told her, said something about, yeah, one of my friends lives in Bermuda. Well, you know, I love Bermuda Bob, and if you're watching this, Bermuda Bob, I do think of you as a friend. But then I had to stop a minute and say, okay, so I know Bermuda Bob because he doesn't live in Bermuda anymore, but I know Bermuda Bob because he's a fellow coach in the John Maxwell team. And so I've seen him and I've waved to him across a crowded room. And I've seen him on Facebook Live a couple of times, and he's seen me on Facebook Live a couple of times. And so I think of him as my friend. But Kelly, you're exactly right. There's a difference between a close friend and a casual acquaintance, and we can get real specific about how we're labeling those relationships in our life. So Missy says, yet get a coach. I have been propelled forward quickly because I have an honest coach keeping me accountable. Yeah. That's the other thing that's powerful about a coach in your life. When you have a coach, things go a lot faster because you know what? I know you're smart. I know you're smart. I'm smart. You're smart and you can figure things out. You can figure things out. I can figure things out. It might take me 50 years to figure out that the word Calliope is really Calliope, but I'll figure it out eventually. And you know what? In the scheme of things, that's not a big deal. But you know what was a big deal? It was a big deal that I lost one of the best jobs I ever had doing something that I loved, that I was born to do, because I didn't know what I didn't know. I lost it. And it was years. It was many years before I was able to be in that kind of a position again at my career where I was able to say I was doing what I loved in my strength zone and thriving in it because I didn't know what I didn't know. It's so powerful, so powerful. All right, anybody else before we wrap up? What Have you maybe had something specific where you didn't know what you didn't know and you thought, oh my gosh, how could I have missed it? How could I have not realized that? Or maybe you have a trusted person who took you aside and said, let's talk. Let's talk, because I don't think you realize what's happening. But if you're not careful, if I had had a person in my inner circle at work, if I had had a trusted person, and I didn't for years, but I started cultivating that relationship after I got burned by not knowing what I didn't know. If I had had a relationship like that, where I could have asked them, how am I doing? What could I tweak? Are there any potholes in my future? Where is my path taking me? If I would have had somebody who had some knowledge, who had a heart for me, and if I could have trusted them to ask those questions, I don't know how much faster I would have accomplished what I wanted to do, which was to work and live in my calling. I don't know how much faster that would have happened for me. And so I just want you to think about who in your life is speaking to you to help you to know what you don't know. Mispronouncing a word like hors d'oeuvres or calliope is not a big deal. Losing a position, having a marriage disintegrate, not taking an opportunity out of fear, all because you don't have a good trusted inner circle of people or a person who can help you to get clarity and see things that are in the picture while you're in the picture. It's so true. All right, Missy says this, somewhere we pick up this idea that if we don't know something, we can appear dumb. Oh, Missy, preach. Why? How could we know everything? Exactly right. My philosophy has been, says Missy, if I don't know, someone else does. I just need to find that person. There's no shame in not knowing. And I applaud that philosophy, right? There is no shame in not knowing. So sometimes, and I know this was me. Kelly's raising her hand. Kelly's raising her hand. Right? It can be hard to admit we don't know. But if we think about it, if we're fair to ourselves, like Missy says, how could we know everything? There's no shame in not knowing, right? There's no shame in not knowing. There's somebody who does know, and we can learn from them, because once we embrace the idea that we don't know everything, right? I'm going to confess, one of my bosses many years ago said about me, Shannon, you may be wrong, but you are never in doubt. And I laughed, and he laughed, and my husband laughed when he heard it. But, I used to think that was a really strong suit, because I could always sound like I knew what I was talking about. But at some point, I realized that's not good. I need to be able to say, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or I think this is how it works, but I don't know for sure. I need to leave some room that I just might be wrong. And I hear many of you saying, yes, Shannon, you do. It's true. I'm learning, though, as I go. The older I get, the more I realize there's no shame in not knowing. And when we know better, we can do better. That's another one you could write down. When we know better, we can do better. Until we know better, we're not going to be able to do better. So where do you need to grow so that you can do better? This has been amazing. Thank you all for chiming in and sharing your wisdom and being honest that, I struggle with that, right? I'm not the only one. There's things in my life right now that I know I don't know, but I've got a coach. I've got trusted friends that will help me to see what is it I'm missing. And I am intentional about once a week, once a month, stepping out and taking a look at everything and going, okay, what does it look like from out here? If you do those things, you are going to grow faster. And if there is any way that I can help you, please reach out. You can just drop me a comment. You can send me a Facebook message. I would love to hear from you, because I am all about helping. I want to help people be the best they can be. I want to help people influence others for good. I want you to be confident. I want you to sleep at night. I want you to have a sense of where you're going. And I want you to be in a relationship where it is okay to fail. And in fact, it's not just okay, it's great. And that person, those people, they can help you to take the meat and leave the bones. All right, with that, I wish you all a great week. Kelly says, I need to believe in myself more, but I am learning to. Well done, Kelly. Isn't that the journey, right? Isn't that the crux of the journey? I need to believe in myself more, but I'm learning to believe in myself more. Yeah, because you don't have to execute perfectly. You don't have to be flawless. You have to try and learn and try again. And when you surround yourself with people who believe that and they encourage you, amazing things happen. All right, you guys, take care. Mwah. I love you. Bye.